Okay. Hi, everyone. This is Becky. I wanted to ask her to come on because she's amazing with juggling all of the things. And her kids are a little bit older, but she has some really, really good tips. And for anybody who's been in here listening to me post about color personalities, she's going to talk a little bit about it, and then we can go further into it if you want more information on that. So if you want to introduce yourself and how many kids you have, how old are they?
Yeah, so I'm Becky. Jenny, thanks for inviting me. I love talking colors, but I also really love talking about parenting and sort of sharing tips and stuff that, I wish that someone had shared with me, right? So I'm a homeschooling mom of three. I have three special needs kids. The oldest is on the autism spectrum. He's 15, almost 16. I also have a 13-year-old with ADHD, and I have a younger one that has like dyslexia and ADHD as well. So I also have a coaching business. So I am a special needs parent mentor. I also work with people with identity and color personalities to help them have more effective communication in their marriages, with their parenting. And also I, like to come alongside people that are doing business as well to kind of find their lane, the things they love to do, and then kind of marry that with doing something that could actually give them freedom of time and just freedom in general. Time, finances, and just being able to be at home with kids, because I think that's super important.
So that's exactly why I wanted you to come on, because I mean, you're amazing.
Yeah, so the thing that I really like to do is think out of the box. So I did marketing for like 20 years. And so it was, and I'm 47. So I've had like a very full professional career, and I just felt like my kids needed more. Mm-hmm. And I had grown up in the public school setting. And so homeschooling was not something that I was really familiar with. But I knew it was something that we wanted to do because there were a lot of things that my kids need to develop skills in that weren't being covered. So my youngest has only been homeschooled, and she's now in fifth grade. My middle guy is in sixth grade, and my oldest is a freshman in high school. Wow. So one of the things that I really like to do is come alongside parents and show them what we're actually doing. And then they can kind of take things kind of that they need, and they can kind of just synthesize that into how they work. My model is really on coming alongside families and parents who feel like they're not qualified, feel like they don't know what they're supposed to know, and feel like they have had a lot of pressure from other people to do certain things when it comes to the supporting the growth of their kids, both educationally and otherwise, and just encourage them to say, you actually are the most qualified to take care of your children.
Yeah.
You have some incredible insights into what it is that you do. Yeah. And you just need to be surrounded by people that believe that, your children are really going to have amazing and abundant lives, and you're there to kind of help them through that process. And I'm a little bit like different from a lot of other people, because I believe that even if it's a mess, it can really be a success. So that's what I kind of walk and preach, and people that I coach, I'm not doing it today, but like I will show up with a messy bun, and I will show up in my bathrobe if that's where I'm at doing a self-care routine, and I'll coach from that place, because my brand is about being real about what it is, so that you can know that it doesn't have to be perfect for you. But the one, yeah, right. But the one thing that I really love is peace is my gauge. Like if I have peace in my home, that means I have peace in myself and peace in my marriage. That flows down to my kids. It flows down to their education. It flows down to the way,
Yeah.
And so we can have a lot of freedom. So what's really cool is that we got out of massive debt, making some serious decisions to like kind of move and you know, we're now like, except for our mortgage, we're completely debt free.
Wow, that's awesome.
Financial, yeah. So we have the financial freedom, but like, you know, there's sacrifices. There's certain things that I won't do and certain things I will do. We love to travel. So during COVID, it's been some of the most peaceful like days of my entire marriage. And the thing I wanted to kind of share too is that, you know, we love to travel. So we like to plan at least 1 to 2 international trips with our kids a year.
Oh, wow.
And we couldn't do that during COVID. So we rented a house at Myrtle Beach for a month.
Ooh,
And that's
I'm going there at the end of the month.
Yeah. So we were in North Myrtle Beach. So like up by Cherry Grove, like that's where we were like right, we were 2 blocks from the beach. But that, you know, I feel like you can school from anywhere. And the beauty of having young children is that you do have flexibility. And I love the fact, Jenny, that you like focus on the fun piece, because that's really where kids should be, you know?
Yeah, so they're so young at least, or
yeah,
I
right.
guess older too, but.
But I really studied a lot about learning theory, not because I wanted to become a teacher, but because I wanted to better understand my kids. And so I know a lot about working memory, executive functioning, which is some of the areas that impact kids that are high energy and may not be able to focus. And also different techniques for helping kids with like anxiety when it comes to, you know, number sense, children that have dyslexia. So I hired special education tutors to teach me how to teach my children.
Wow.
One, that saves money. And 2 is that I now then have a better appreciation for how my children learn. And since that's happened, it's been a much more peaceful journey. And we've been able to have more time to have fun. And that's kind of the name of the game when you have young children.
I think a lot of people don't realize that. Like I went to a homeschool meeting yesterday and they said, how you teach your kids is how they learn, not how you want to teach their kids. So the color personalities go like into that. And that's like basically how you do everything, right?
Yeah.
Your family is so lucky. Like your husband's lucky, your kids are so lucky. Like nobody thinks like that. Like people don't even know about that, probably.
Yeah. Well, I've been studying for like 8 to 10 years about color personalities, and that's sort of the 4 color system. And so it really just unlocked easier communication, and it helped me to motivate both myself, my husband, and my kids. It helps us to be able to hit our goals and establish goals. And at the end of the day, we can do it much more peacefully. And I think that's what it is. It's like not having the conflict about trying to get things done, whether it's, you know, putting on your shoes and getting out the door, or where do you want to go on vacation this summer, you know, or, you know, just, it's like, it eases communication, which then creates a calmer environment.
Yeah, the peace.
When
like
you kind of know how people are designed.
Yeah, totally. All right, so want to get into the questions?
Sure.
All right, so what are your favorite things to do for self-care, and how long do you take? Because I know like for me, it's like 10 minutes. Like, do you take the 10 minutes or hours, or do you do a day?
So I have different things for self-care. So some of my favorite things I like to do, so almost daily, I will do a coffee enema, which is like totally crazy for people.
Yeah.
But it gives me energy because I have children that are high energy.
Oh, it gives you energy? It's like instead of drinking it?
Yeah, instead of drinking it. It's a coffee. It's totally safe. But what I do, it's therapeutic coffee and whatever. And it's basically a regimen that a girlfriend of mine, it removes parasites. It removes like all sorts of stuff that are in your like upper like colon and that area. And what it does is I noticed that it really helped me with sleep. It helped me with weight. Like it's crazy. Like I just have more energy and I don't eat as much. But what I really love is that it gave me clarity and focus. I had a lot of brain fog just because I was just tired. I was tired from, you know, like in order to get the day started, I have to get up pretty early in the morning. And I would do that and then struggle, and then I would be tired, and then, you know, whatever. So I will do either a hydrogen peroxide, which is like a warm water flush, and then a coffee enema. That's like that was like a staple of mine.
So every single day? You do that every day?
I try to do it every day. And it takes about 45 minutes
Oh, well.
from start to finish.
Okay.
And there's like a whole protocol that I use, but basically a friend of mine who's got 7 children from 17 all the way to 6, she has like just been a master at being able to figure this out. She went to Mexico where she learned from a cancer oncologist how to help cancer patients manage pain and healing. And she went and studied under him, like the process. And then she started doing it, and she now has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people.
Wow.
Like she's got a group of like over 450 people that have done it since.
Wow.
She has an entire program and everything. It's like really, it's amazing.
Well, that's a very interesting, unique self-care.
It is. But you're like, what are your favorite things? So that's one. Self-care for me too is I have once a month I get together for a virtual happy hour with 2 of my very close girlfriends that I've known for over a decade now. We used to work together before we all had kids. So it's like creating time with friends that I really love. It gives me encouragement. It helps me to laugh. And it reminds me what I was like before I had kids. Yeah. So we're able to kind of talk about our marriages and talk about our children and talk about aging parents, stuff like that. And it's like, we've known each other for so long, like they're my best friends. One is in Chicago and the other one's out in Seattle.
Oh,
so
that's cool.
Like we hit like every time zone except mountain time.
Yeah, you got to time it perfectly.
Yeah.
So it's not too late for you.
Yeah, so I do that. I do like to, I take time every night, and it's I think that this goes into self-care for me because I need to remind myself. I like to do this 14-minute journaling routine, which is basically me pouring out all of the negative stuff as a parent that I feel towards my kids, towards my husband, towards myself, towards my life, whatever. And
just kidding.
Yeah, right. And I basically, because peace is my biggest goal, what I like to do is I journal for 7 minutes to purge that.
Yeah.
And then for the second 7 minutes, what I do is I will go into the Bible and read. I ask a question, and then I read until I get confirmation of what I'm looking for. Oh. And then I write a letter back to myself in 7 minutes from God on what I heard. And I learned this like 3 or 4 years ago at a marriage retreat. And what it's really done is it's created this opening in me to purge things that we're just really not meant to show our spouses and our kids and aren't true. And then what happens is when I go into the Bible and I just open it up and read, that's why you have to ask a question. What I do is then I am able to pour the truth and good things into me. And then I feel more settled.
Wow.
So it's sort of like that purging daily is super important. So I try to do that. I don't always, because I have a couple of days a week where I'm out the door by 7. So those I just make sure my coffee gets done. And then, it's like I make sure that I drop $300 to get my hair done every couple of months where I get it. Yeah, I get it like dyed and like cut.
Oh my gosh, I would have never known. Do you have like grays?
Oh my gosh, I have so much gray, but not now because I just got my hair done. But I love just having time. But I mean, I also like do business strategy stuff with my hairstylist, like with the salon. So it's kind of work but pleasure. And then somebody's taking care of me, which is nice. And I like getting, and I like going out on like, self-care is like also for my marriage. My husband has a surprise date for me every Saturday.
What?
Yeah. Yes.
That was like his thing that he decided that he wanted to do for you?
No, so we went to a marriage retreat because we had some pretty serious issues like 3 years back. And he learned from a man in a very solid marriage and was like, you need to date your husband and you need to date your wife. So part of that is sort of the biblical principle of leadership in the home. But it's coming from a place where you're having fun, you're having adventure. I never know where he's taking me. I have no idea. He's been doing this for like 3 years now.
Aww.
Like almost every Saturday.
Now, what's your guys' favorite thing to do?
His thing or my thing?
Like both of you guys, or what's his favorite surprise?
So he he just loves the fact that I have not once complained. I did once because he didn't make the decision and I got mad at him for not making the decision. I'm like, it's your job. Like, you're
Yeah.
supposed to decide everything. I'm not supposed to know anything.
Mhm.
And then I ended up being starving, and that's not healthy or happy. And I was like starving, and he's like, well, where do you want to just go? I'm like, I don't know where we are. I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
So, but except for that exception, he said the greatest pleasure he has is that I never have said anything negative, and I've been super welcoming. Mm-hmm. So some of the things that we've done is shooting guns at a gun range, which I was like, it's super awesome. I was like, I kind of love this. He's taken me to distillery tours. He's taken me to like Flying Dog, like the beer factory, like they have a factory tour. He's taken me out to restaurants. He's taken me out for soda tastings, like at a local pop shop that we have. Like,
so he's really thinking like outside the box. He's making an effort.
Yes.
He's on like a new restaurant every Saturday.
Oh yeah. Well, the thing is, I used to be a foodie, and then we started dating, and now food is actually my least favorite. I like activities more. Mm-hmm. So we've done golfing. He's taken me to, he will take me to new restaurants, like restaurants that I really love that my kids won't eat at, like Kava and things like that. He'll go out and just surprise me and be like, oh, we're doing this. But like some of my favorite, like he's taking me on a cemetery tour. He's taken me to concerts.
Wow.
And like, but the cool thing is not what we do, but the fact that it's dedicated time together alone, which helps him to feel connected to me to like take off the hat of being a mom. And also it's fun and exciting because, which for a red blue like me is really important. I need new and like fun and different. And it also allows him from a biblical perspective to lead his wife, where I'm not telling him what to do. He gets to have confidence that he knows me, you know? And so that's what we do for like self-care.
I think I really need to start going in your group and reading more of your posts. After hearing all that.
There's actually a group that I think I posted it under marriage, because I have a guide under marriage.
Okay.
It talks about color personalities in marriage. But it actually, I think I posted the link to the marriage group. There's a group that I'm a part of. It's called 52 Date Challenge. That means every single Saturday. So everybody comes in from all over the world. It was started by someone, I think, in the UK and 2 people from Texas, because we're all part of a business community. Mm-hmm. And like, it's got like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of couples in it. And all we do is discuss, like, there are couples that have young children. So they're like, we can't really leave the house. Like, how can we have a date? And so people give them ideas where they can have a date after the kids go to bed. Mm-hmm. Or they talk about having dates during the day when their kids are like doing something else or whatever.
Yeah.
So what I think it's really done is it's created space within in our family for our marriage. And I think that has really been.
And your kids are old enough where your oldest can watch your youngest too,
mm-hmm.
right? Yeah.
But what's interesting is, you know, they rarely get TV anyway. So before this happened, it was like, we really just started doing this when my oldest was like 12, 13. And it was like, our downtown's only like 10 minutes away. So like we would go and literally the kids we have a TV, a laptop, 2 laptops, and a desktop. Like they just wouldn't talk to each other. They would just stare at the TV the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there are a lot of parents in that group that have young children. So they also come up with ideas where they can like close the door and get a movie and get some takeout, and that's what they do. Or they'll play like Sexy Monopoly or whatever. Like there's also things in there where they
definitely need to be asleep for that.
I know. I don't know. Like, here's the thing. As you get older, like my kids have definitely heard us like going at it and was like, that's how you showed up. Like, that's natural. Like, I mean, if they're not going to learn at home,
they're going to learn somewhere else.
Yeah. So we're very transparent about the fact that we have Congress.
Boom, boom.
Like, don't come into our room and not knock on the door.
Or you're going to be hurting your eyes.
Right?
You're going to suffer, not me.
Yeah.
I guess that's a good perspective. Like, learn from you, not somebody else.
Well, I mean, it's natural, you know, I mean, we don't want them to feel like it's shameful and that they need to hide from it or whatever, but I mean, that's the reality. And I think that that's what also, I think, helps them to understand what real intimacy is in marriage. Is like your parents should be like hot for each other.
Yeah.
They should be wanting to be with each other. Like that's what being in a committed relationship is. I mean, I'm not saying like have sex in front of your kids, but I'm saying like we're very affectionate. Like we just are in, like he grabs my butt and like I'll like sit on his lap and we'll make out or whatever in front of the kids, and they're like, ew, this is so disgusting. Mostly, it's just mostly to like goof around with them. But it's important for them to see physical touch is something that marriages need. That
not
it's
totally
like
disconnected.
To build way to build intimacy and connection. Because then it doesn't seem so weird, right? It isn't, and then they can come and ask us anything when it comes to that.
Because when my parents kissed, we were like, oh my gosh, that is so sick. Just like a kiss goodbye or like just the basic, like a peck.
They're very, yeah.
So total opposite.
We don't want to make it into something that is like dirty or something they have to hide. And it's like, yeah, it's totally natural. And that's why it's really important to have this in the context of everything else. Like the love and the affection too.
Yeah, I like that. So for kids, like even though your kids are older, what is something you guys like to do, or what do you do with your kids? What are their favorite things to do? Or what do you guys do as a family?
Yeah, so there's this movie theater that we like to go to. It's called Warehouse Cinema, where you can kind of sit in giant recliners and like and you can like order food and stuff, and you can just literally like you can get alcoholic drinks there too.
Like a restaurant.
Yeah, it's like a restaurant, and you can bring your food into the movie theater.
You can?
We just like it. Yeah, and like the seats are like a lazy boy with like butt warmers. With like movable trays, you can fully recline them and like lie down and watch the movie. Is it
like really expensive?
It's like $10, like the same as a regular theater.
Wow.
It's crazy.
That's super cool.
Yeah. So my kids also, we live close to a lake, within walking distance to a lake. So we like to go mushroom hunting. So we've gotten more, which are like these delicate, like they're like delicacies or whatever. So we like to just go look for them. They like to bike down there. They go fishing and swimming in the lake. My kids do jujitsu. Do
you guys eat the mushrooms?
Huh?
Do you guys eat the mushroom?
Yeah, they're edible.
Oh.
They're like a delicacy. They only show up in the spring, like 1 month a year they show up.
Is that the post you did where you're like, they're back? Oh, okay, that's what they were. But they were like big, like.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we totally like fry them up. They're awesome. But the thing is, I think a lot of it is they really are like, you know, so every Friday, so this, you know, talk about self-care and like, and I wrap self-care with rest as well, is every Friday we have a party. And it's called Shabbat. And it's like where we break in the day of rest. And so every Friday we invite at least one family, sometimes more, but with COVID, we have to like limit it to the numbers. But we generally will invite like 2 to 3 times a month. We have people over every Friday, and all we do is eat and hang out. And then we have a fire pit because we live on 11 acres. So we have like a fire pit where like we like do s'mores, and the adults just have wine, and we have a bunch of chairs, and the kids can like burn whatever. And
do you have animals?
Huh?
What do you do with 11 acres?
Neglected. We have 2 cats. We like to travel. Well, we did have chickens, and they got eaten by foxes. And I'm like too devastated after the 3rd round of chickens to want to go at it again.
Yeah, that is.
So until the fence gets fixed, I won't get any more animals. But what's cool is that they actually, my kids are like, so what they like to do, they like to go to the beach. So our family has a house at the beach. So they go there quite a bit. They just like to run around and be with their friends and ride their bikes, stuff like that.
Well, it sounds like you guys have like free, easy access to fun, like fishing and hiking and.
Well, it wasn't, I mean, it was a real blessing because we lived in a much more crowded area before we moved here 4 years ago.
Mm.
And I truly feel the move to this area that's a little bit of a slower pace. First of all, the cost of living is much more manageable. And second of all, I mean, we've really seen changes in the kids. We've been able to kind of slow down a little bit. And what's been amazing is we've traveled more since we moved out of the city because we have more income.
Yeah, that's awesome. I would love to move right now, but family and everything. So, but some people, it's okay for them. If you like traveling, you probably see your family a lot.
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, my mom passed away a couple years ago. So, and my other sisters are all over, but I did see one when we went to see the presidential houses. So we went, like, we just like to take like 4 or 5 day trips where on the shoulders of the weekends we get to travel, and we just take the kids. Like, one of the things they really love is we have a membership with KOA. It's like a campsite.
Oh,
They
okay.
rent cabins. So they
Nice.
have like electricity and bunk beds and like a TV and air conditioning.
And then you could just go to all of those places. Like, there's specific places, right?
Yeah.
Then you just pay the membership.
Yeah. Well, we pay the membership and then you get a discount but it's like less expensive than a hotel room. And our kids love it because it's familiar, because all of them have like a bathhouse, and like some of them are fully outfitted, like you're in like a full like house, but we tend to like roughing it. So we just use the one that has where you have to go to the bathhouse. It's kind of like camping, but like there's like a fire ring. It's usually in different places. We've stayed at KOAs in Florida. We've stayed in them in where did we go? In Toronto, not Toronto, Montreal. We went to Montreal. We've been all through Vermont. We've been in South Carolina, North Carolina. It's just familiar, and it gives us a little bit more flexibility instead of staying at a hotel, because the challenge with hotels with 3 kids is that there's nowhere to go. They can either go to a pool or they can stare at the TV, or you have to go do an activity. Whereas at KOAs, there's a playground, there's a pool. You're usually centrally located, so you can't go out to restaurants, but you can also, like, if you want to make s'mores at the fire, you can do that. So it gives us a lot more flexibility. And then the kids get the adventure of sleeping in a cabin and sleeping bags and stuff. But then, like, there's no pressure. Whereas in a hotel room, they drive me crazy because, like, my husband and I, if the kids go to bed, we can sit out by the fire and have some alone time.
Oh, yeah. You made me rethink the whole, like, wanting to stay in a hotel. And
I love me some hotel, girl. Like, I love myself some hotel, not with my children.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
And young kids are just, and like letting them, like, like I bring the diffuser, so we have that. I rub everybody down. We go, like, we have a very specific routine, and they go to bed. But everything has electricity, so like nobody's uncomfortable. There's air conditioning. There's heat.
It's not totally roughing it.
Yeah.
It's like roughing it without roughing it. It's like luxury.
It's glamping. It's
glamping.
When you actually are camping.
What's the name of the one that you use?
Yeah, I like the ones that are. What do you mean? Like,
is there like a specific name for the company that you get your membership from?
Yeah, it's called KOA.
Oh, that's the name of it?
It's like Campers of America, KOA. Like, you just.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's why I've heard of it. Maybe because I thought it was like this.
I mean, different places are hit or miss. Like, there's some places that are nicer. We stayed at a place in Orlando, which wasn't super nice. But like the amount of money it would cost for us to stay at a resort, and with my teacher discount, and if you homeschool your kids, you are a teacher.
Oh.
That's it. With the teacher discount, what happened was we ended up spending, it was like, I think it was like $50 a night after the discount.
Wow, that's
to
so
stay
cheap.
in a little cabin. Yeah. And I mean, it wasn't fabulous. It wasn't like the best campground we stayed at, but all we were doing was sitting at the Disney parks anyway. So we didn't even do s'mores or any cooking there. We were just going home.
That's like nothing compared to some of the hotel prices that are outrageous.
So, I mean, it's not that we haven't stayed in hotels, but it's like, it just allows us to have more money to spend elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So like if my
And
kid,
they'll go on vacation.
yeah, because like we just recently went to one down in Charlottesville,
Mm-hmm.
and it was we went to Monticello, and it's like $50 a ticket, you know, to get in for kids and adult, like anybody that's like past the age of, I don't know, 5 or whatever. And so, and also the house tour is separate from like getting onto the estate or whatever. And so like you just feel less pressure because you're like, oh, we're not spending $1,000 on hotel to stay here for like 4 nights.
Yeah.
You know? And then you can't, then you feel crushed with other stuff. So I mean, so I guess I'm kind of frugal, and that's kind of one of the things I do for self-care is like I try to spend less in the areas where it doesn't require it so that I have more to spend in the things that I want.
And that's such a good point because last weekend or 2 weekends ago, we went to June Lake, and it was so freezing there that we literally couldn't do anything. And with kids, and it's like you spend all this money on a hotel, and then I was feeling like, oh my God, everybody wasted their money, and everyone's like, just relax, it's okay, we were just hanging out. But I'm like, oh, you know, so if you're only spending that much, it's more like, oh, well, come try again later, another day. Or something.
I mean, there's certain places where it's going to be expensive. So if you're going to like Yosemite, you're going to have to go for like a cheap hotel or something.
Yeah.
But like for the most part, if you're trying to do like, you know, a day trip or a couple of days, go overnight, like the kids love that experience. They love going, they just like going to the KOA. Like they just like, it's familiar.
And being outdoors, because even homeschooling, sometimes probably you feel like you're inside a lot.
No.
In the same place. No? Well, that's good. That's good.
I can't be inside all the time. So what I've learned is I've refined over the last like 6 years of homeschooling. We're going on our 7th year this year. It's really about figuring out the rhythms versus routines. It's really about like, how do your kids learn, and then hitting them in those times when they are learning instead of saying, you must be here for 40 minutes. You must do this subject every day. Mm-hmm. I do think having some sense of routine is really important in terms of when you do certain things. Mm-hmm. But I have found that my daughter, like when she's super motivated, like she'll get her work done in like an hour, bang on an hour, hour and a half, like reading, math, all sorts of stuff.
All of it?
She's motivated. Yeah, she's super motivated. And like she's dyslexic, so reading and writing are very difficult for her. Mm-hmm. But like, it's about the exposure and the consistency that's super important for these parents to like, for us as parents to kind of, you know, work with our kids. So like, as an example with my daughter, she really is not very good with getting up first thing in the morning and just immediately working. Like that's not her rhythm. She just doesn't do that. So, and she doesn't like to do things really difficult first thing. So like with reading, we'll do basic reading, like My First Winnie the Pooh. We'll do like A Cat in the Hat, something that's very simple and small. And then she builds up to the harder work, which is like doing her like grammar stuff. And then she'll taper off. And then she needs breaks. She needs to have tea. She needs to have a snack while she's working. Mm-hmm. And so if she's more pleasant because I give her some like biscuits to eat while she's like doing it with a cup of tea, and she's going to be happier. I mean, that's the kind of stuff we have flexibility to do as homeschoolers that she wouldn't get in school.
The more I learn about homeschooling, the more I'm like, I just feel like there's no other option. Like if you're able to do it,
send them back.
Yeah, if you're able to do it and willing as a parent, I mean, why not? I mean, your kids are so lucky if you.
Yeah, and I do think that you know, but understanding the way that your kids are and how they prefer to spend their time when it comes to learning difficult things, like what are the things that motivate your children to do the things that they persist in not doing? Like when do they struggle with persistence? Yeah. It's like when things are hard, when things are new, when they're tired or hungry or have to go to the bathroom, or it's a beautiful day outside. Like there's been more than one occasion where I've just grabbed a blanket from the couch and we just go out and sit on the grass and like grab a water bottle, and then they can come in and out of the house and do whatever, but I'll just sit and read to them, like just to reset, you know? And those are the things that we need to kind of look for when we're educating our kids is when are they just relaxed? Because if they're stressed out because we're like, you must do this, this, and this, you know, I spend more time with the people that I work with and also the communities I support talking about looking at your children and looking at your life and coming up with a way to like work with your children so that they can see how amazing they are.
Yeah.
And be excited about getting to know the world. And at the same time, like, don't worry about what levels are. I spend a lot of time educating people on what levels actually are.
What do you mean?
Which is basically, it was the Department of Education. So after basically in like the 30s and 40s, what happened was that they started the child labor laws because there were a lot of kids, right, that were like dying in factories and dying in coal mines and stuff. So then the government stepped in. They're like, this is a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're going to come up with this law that's going to be expansive, and we're going to tell parents that their children can no longer be underage and work. And so they did this. The kids are no longer dying in factories and coal mines, but what happened to them? They're literally running around because their parents are in the factories working.
Oh, so they just weren't allowed to work, but they didn't have anything for them to do.
So then they're like, oh, now we have all these kids. So then the president at the time, he starts the Department of Education, which is a bunch of like old dudes coming up and that are experts. And they came up with what it is, how long until they can work in a factory again. And then, oh, well, it's around 17, 18 years old. So we're gonna design education so that they have benchmarks every year because we're taking money from taxpayers to pay for this because we don't have any money of ourselves, like our own.
I mean, why would
so that? They need to be able to have a job when they're done with this education that we have said they need. You know, because before factory jobs, how do kids learn?
Being there.
On the farm.
Yeah.
We were agrarian. We were agriculturally based society before factory and like before the Industrial Revolution.
That's so interesting. I never knew that about.
Before people started migrating to cities, because that's where factory jobs were in industry, kids would learn how to milk a cow. They would learn how to do their chores. They would learn how to build a house. They would learn how to farm a field, you know?
Yeah.
Like to like feed themselves.
Yeah.
So what happened was that, I mean, you always had cities, right? But like, even all the way back in ancient times when the nomads stopped wandering around, they stopped in the Fertile Crescent to farm.
Yeah,
because that's how they no longer had to chase their food around.
Yeah. So crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, now if I try to plant a tomato this week and it's like dying.
That's okay. You can go to the grocery store. But what I'm saying is these standards are probably put in place for typical kids. They're meant for the middle. They're not meant for exceptionally gifted kids. And they're not for kids that are sort of not on the median. Like I know
one size fits all.
Yeah. And so my kids, like, I know that my children will eventually get to where they need to go. But I know if they're happy and they know who they are and they know their best way of acquiring knowledge and taking care of themselves, they're going to be fine. Yeah. It doesn't matter what they do. Right. But I think a lot of people are like, you must do this, this, and this. And I mean, I came from that type of.
And that's normal for a lot of people. Like people are scared to venture off and try new things.
And I'm just, so a lot of my time is encouraging and reminding parents, hey, you are enough. You actually really are enough.
And you're the best.
Yeah. And if you just watch your children and you kind of have good things poured into you and you purge all the junk that you shouldn't say to your kids in a really healthy way, and you have a great marriage where your spouse kind of supports you and you support your spouse, like that's as nurturing as it can be. And that's work. It's simple, but it's work to stay there, right? Because we've got so many things telling us you have to do it this way. This is what you need to do. This is how. And I mean, I'm actually doing a workshop, I think in June. I'm not sure. I have to talk to I have to talk and figure out my schedule. But one of the things that I think is so important is that we need to understand that our parents, if they gave us pressure, and we do, it's called heritage color personality, heritage influences in color, which is how you were raised by your parents.
Okay.
And how their colors informed you, how the things that they went through their life affected how you show up authentically as your colors. And I can jump in, I've said the colors a couple bit, but you can remind me if you want to talk about it. I can go through a little bit of what that looks like. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think there's so much finger pointing and saying, you didn't do this for me. And now I'm, these people are telling me I need to do this with my kids and this is how I need to raise them. We're not really looking at the children. And we are also not looking at our parents to be like, they raised us the best that they could with what they had and what they knew.
Other people talking sometimes is hard because you're right. People do say that. But then sometimes people ask me for advice. I'm like, well, it just depends. Really, like every kid's so different. So you just.
But I do think there are certain things and tenets and approaches and perspective that open you up for being able to be more flexible. I definitely believe that. And I think the result, like how you need to look at success as, are you able to accomplish your daily activities in peace? Or are people in tears? Are people exhausted? And are people just upset? Because if that's what's happening, then that means either the timing is wrong or the content is wrong. How your approach is something that's not working. It doesn't mean it can't work forever. Like I can't expect my dyslexic child to be able to read Shakespeare.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean she can't read.
Yeah.
It means she can't read Shakespeare.
She's on a different level. Yeah. And we don't need to be like, she doesn't need to be at everybody's level who's her age.
Because the only thing I try, and I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I learned and really have lived, and it's really created a lot of peace in our home, is I only measure my children according to the latest version of who they were yesterday or a month ago or a year ago. And I measure them against their own performance.
Yeah.
Because
somebody else's standards.
Yeah. I mean, using other people as a standard is, you don't know what's going on, and it's not my kid. So why would I
that end up making you more stressed out and you pushing them more and then just causing tension?
Well, tears. Like we had a lot of years of tears where my kids would just be like, I hate school, blah, blah, blah. And we're recovering from that. And that's the other thing. You don't have to have done it perfectly to improve on the process now.
Yeah.
And that's the other lie that I think society tells you, is that you screwed them up for life. They're never going to, and it's not true. I mean, we're human and we make mistakes.
And they're still young. I mean, even 15 or 16, that's still young.
Yeah, but the thing is, the kids also need to know how to fail. And who better to teach them in a gentle and loving way how to fail, and that it doesn't affect their value as a human being if they've like not succeeded in doing something, or if they have, because we also are in a society where there's incredible overachieving happening. Yeah. And there's incredible pressure. And I mean, we had a congressman here whose son was a Harvard law student and killed himself.
Yeah.
Like the pressure swings both ways, and so we want to make sure that we just are as close to the middle as possible with our kids. Like that they get to be, that we help them discover who they are. For me, it's that God designed them from the beginning perfectly. They're not perfect, but they're perfectly designed for an abundant and purposeful life. Our job is to expose them to lots of different things. Some kids are going to like art. Some kids are going to like music. Some kids won't know what they want for a while, and they just need to be loved. And they're fearful, and like there's just different personalities that tend to be more fearful. I was talking to someone else about that, who wants to work with kids with anxiety. And I'm like, there's certain color personalities that are just more fearful.
Mm-hmm.
So then you need to know that if they're fearful, why are they fearful? Help them through that. And then also tell them that they don't need to fear judgment from your parents.
Do you have
And that,
all of this kind of stuff for like the heritage kids and marriage stuff, color personalities lined up?
yeah, so I have a course. It's called Parenting, Figuring Out Your Kid's Color Personality.
Mm-hmm.
It's a course where you can purchase it, and the videos are coming online like this week, but all of the lesson plans are in there. But it basically helps you to dive deeper into figuring out who your kid is. Like, what
Oh.
are the behaviors? What are the words that encourage them?
Mm-hmm.
How to motivate them? Things to stay away from when you talk to these kids. And then also, it's got a little bit of heritage stuff. I put a bonus in there for heritage so people can understand a little bit about the historical impact of parents on their kids. And then I also have, there's another one that it's in there. I put another bonus thing in there. Mm-hmm. But it basically goes through, it gives you like a chart and a cheat sheet for every color combination. So like,
maybe I can link that into.
Yeah, I think I dropped you the link when you said, hey, do you have something earlier? Yeah, I think I put it in your text. I'm not sure. But yeah, so that is, so what I will do is I will offer that at a 20% discount for anybody that gets started in this group for the next. Yeah, just because, I want to support you guys. It's lifetime access, so you can go through the content on your own. And you also get added to a private group that talks all about colors. So we talk about marriage.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's also, I've got a ton of trainings in there that are, just like, and about whatever. And I also have another course that is colors in 4 areas for people that are like, maybe they are interested in like, so the 4 categories are self, like dealing with your own colors, marriage, parenting, and work. And then I also have bonus stuff in there.
Awesome.
But that course, I don't have all the videos up yet. So, I mean, whatever. If somebody needs to, they can just DM me. But
okay, for a video?
Yeah, but for that, yeah, but for the color course, that's ready to go. You can purchase it by the end of this week. All the videos will be up in both those courses.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is just having that cheat sheet. So you can be like, oh, this is why this kid doesn't like to follow directions.
Mm-hmm.
And then you don't look at them as being disobedient. You look at them according to their design. Be like, oh, so this is the kid that's like super argumentative when I ask him to do something. Everything, it has to be just so with this child, or this kid literally doesn't remember anything I tell him to do. Like, he doesn't. So I think you marry that with developmental stuff.
So don't get mad at your kids who don't want to clean up. We are doing it wrong. We have to fix the way we're approaching the situation.
Yes. So it's really a matter, and I personally like it. All the parents I've worked with have really, really enjoyed this piece. One, it's fun. It's like, you remember back when you were in like your teens and when you were younger, you loved horoscopes and all those things that like kind of gave you insight into who you are. I feel like this is the second bounce of that, but as a parent, it gives you kind of insight into your kids before your kids actually develop the language and the behavior to actually tell you, this is my preference, this isn't. What's cool is that as you teach them, the younger you teach them, the more it just becomes a part of how they interact with other people. So then they start understanding people are different and there's certain categories that they fall into. But what happens is that they end up having more successful engagement with other people, adults and children.
Like for you, you have 3 kids. So they see how you're interacting differently probably with each kid. And do you feel like you're explaining to them about different personalities?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. What I've done is my children watch me with the adults that I interact with and other people. And they emulate that. So like, I'm constantly getting feedback from people like, wow, your kids are really well behaved, or I can't believe how polite your children are. like my children, because that's what I do.
Mm.
You know, like I always ask waiters and waitresses their names because that's what I've been trained to do. And I learned this color system from Danny Johnson, who I'm going to be doing coaching with her stuff. She deals with like family and marriage. She's the first person that taught me all this stuff. And my children now do that with new people that they meet because it's all it's like they've been trained. But I've only been doing this for like, you know, like 6 years. But I mean, that's formative. My youngest is 11.
Yeah. That's
so
like,
it's like
probably her whole life that she really remembers.
Yeah, but it's how they interact, it's how they apply. And then they actually feel good because it's well received. So like whether it's a friend, whether it's an adult, somebody that's new that they meet, they can be, my youngest can be a little shy. But I mean, it helps to mitigate. All my children, even my Asperger's guy who's a little bit, you know, wonky, like outside of the home, everyone tells me that my children are well behaved. Like they can't believe how, and I mean, not that that's how I do it. That's not why I do it. I do it because, you know, in many respects, how you get along with other people, it's really important for success in life.
You're teaching them to be good people.
Yeah, well, I mean, you just have to treat people with decent like behavior and respect.
And nowadays, I feel like kids are so mean.
Well, I think part of it is who they hang out with. Like my kids are pretty limited. Like, and also my children, because they have impulse control and ADHD and things can kind of come flying out. We do a lot of front loading and modeling with our children. So it's like, this is what's expected. Where are we going? How do you interact with adults in this setting? How do we run around? And so what we do is the pregame with them. And I learned this, but I mean, I've invested thousands of dollars in parenting coaching because I didn't grow up with two parents and I didn't grow up with young children.
Yeah.
And so I want to make sure that I had like really sound principles for teaching my own kids. Wow. So I've just kind of incorporated all of those in the last 10 years. And now other people are like, oh, like they'll come over and they're like, your children are really well behaved. Like you told them to do something and they actually did it. Like
I didn't ever think to do that.
They actually laughed. Like there wasn't some sort of epic meltdown when you said no. And it's like, it was practice for 10 years.
Yeah. I do that. Like if I'm going to the store, I'm like, hey, don't run. We're going to the store. You can't I can't lose you. There's bad people here. But I never thought to do it like, okay, we're going to this person's house, like, you know, and then do the whole spiel about that. So that's a really good
you involve them, you teach them before they go, then you remind them every time they go. And then you ask them to tell you what the behavior is because then they're, you know, accountable. But I mean, my kids, like, you know, discipline has happened in my house, but I don't do it anymore because they're all old.
They know now. They're older, a little bit older. So yeah, consistency then. That would be the key. So,
but we're consistent with very little thing. Our list of consistent is very, very short.
Yeah.
So like my thing is we do what we say we're going to do. So if we say that, if my husband, that's why I've had to really work with my husband and be like, babe, you know, I don't give out a lot of tech. The kids don't come and ask me for tech. They just don't because they know I'll say no.
Yeah.
But then when I tell them, it's like freaking party. Like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing because they love it.
Silence.
And it's a surprise. It's like adventure and surprise for them, you know, because they didn't expect it from me. But then my husband will get frustrated and say, you're not having tech for the next 2 months. I'm like, babe, I can't dishonor you by going against that. But you just cut off my one thing that I could surprise them with.
Yeah.
You know? And so like, that's been something we had to make adjustments for in the last couple of years. And I had to do it like it always has to be. And this is how it is with that I keep the peace in my house is it's always what my husband says first. And then it's what my kids say. Like, so if he decides in mid-stride that he's going to change something, it always is what he says.
Yeah. And you can't change. You can't be like, oh no, because then that shows your kids a bad relationship too.
And if my kids talk back to my husband, I step in and say, that's not acceptable. You know, I'm like, he, you know, provides everything. He's whatever. And I've had men come up and tell me like, this is some of the most remarkable parenting I've ever seen. Wow. Like the way you talk to your husband, like that's some seriously amazing stuff. And it was because I learned from marriages that had honor in them, so that then it, you know, like, it's not like, this is not brand new. It's just I invested on people telling me how to do that, and then that's what I practice,
Yeah.
and that's what people learn.
Yeah.
It
You took the time. You took the time to learn.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, do you have any more things that you want to share before we close?
No, I mean, I feel like,
Even though you shared so much and it was super helpful, like I learned so much about you. Like you're like, you are amazing. So I'm not surprised people were telling
I
you that.
appreciate that. I think the biggest thing, my biggest takeaway is to be teachable, stay teachable, um, have so much grace for yourself, like as new parents and young parents. Just know that you are enough, and that you are you are really so qualified, and the most qualified to be educating your children. Staying teachable, making sure you have people coming alongside of you that are telling you the truth, right? So like, we don't want to go ahead and be like, my kid's in third grade, or my kid's in second grade, or my kid's in preschool. These are the things they need to know. Yes, you want to use general standards, but if there's something else that's going on, you want to focus on what is causing them a challenge. You don't want to focus on the benchmark, because what if your child has vision problems? What if they have an attention issue? You know, kids with ADHD are generally 2 years behaviorally behind their peers in age. It doesn't mean they won't acquire those skills. It just means that they are more emotionally immature.
ADHD?
Yeah, ADHD.
So that's like a lot of people, a lot of kids.
Yeah. And yet they're like, sit still, do this, do that. And I'm like, ADHD kids are exceptionally bright. So
you just have to know, like reading a book, you can't or being in a classroom.
Like, these are kids that you could put an audiobook on and they'll remember everything just from hearing it.
Yeah.
You know?
Let them play Legos with the audiobook on.
Yeah. But the other thing too is that different personality colors, like, you're going to have certain kids that are fearful, and that's okay. And we just shouldn't be frustrated. It's just how they're designed. It's really giving us opportunities and glimpses into how to equip them. So if you have a child that's all over the place and bouncing all around, give them something in that process of bouncing all around. You can also incentivize those kids by being like, hey, I want to have more fun. I want to go for an adventure today. Can we go ahead and get our reading and math done?
Yeah.
Or, you know, it's funny because, like, you know, our house isn't gigantic, but I like to do my daughter's reading and writing upstairs in our bedroom, because she has ADHD. She likes to have the TV Food Network muted. And then I unmute it in between her breaks when she's done her reading and her math.
So that's like her reward.
Yeah, but it gets her work done in like half the amount of time.
That is so funny that she likes that channel.
So, yeah, but the thing is, it's like, but if she is like staring at the screen and said, well, I'll just turn it straight off. But we also have a king size fuzzy white blanket that she likes to wrap around while she's reading. And so, like, the sensory input for these kids is really important too. Like, they feel soft and snuggly, and then they want to read. And then, like, for my kid that's like super motivated, it's like, okay, hit this goal, you can have your tech. Do this, you can have your tech. You can do this. We do 20-minute increments, because that's like the amount of time it takes for the brain to switch from like enjoying themselves to like becoming crazy.
For me, like, I give my kids like YouTube because it's like crazy right now. So just in this time of my life, and they'll be like, another one. I don't want this one. I'm like, off. Because you guys, like you said, you're not even enjoying it anymore. You're just trying to find something else and trying to find that enjoyment.
20 minutes, right? So that's why I think that for the rhythms, it's really good to know, okay. And I mean, I always so I do educational stuff. So my daughter does Prodigy, which is a video game with math. She has to do the math to go on the video game. And it's relatively expensive. I think it's like $50 or something a year. But or maybe 100, I don't know. But the thing is, I want her to do her math. Like I want her to be doing her math. And she needs to focus on reading and writing right now because of her dyslexia. So we read, like there's this book. Do I even have it here? Here it is. This is super basic, but it's the Christian Liberty Reader. But this is all really short stories. So she's like severely dyslexic. These are really short stories.
Oh, it's easy to read.
Yeah, but it's so easy to read on her. And they're short. They're only like 2 pages long. Oh. And she's actually learning something.
Yeah.
Like it's like, this is like a science book. It talks about beetles and spiders and stuff, and bees and wasps and whatever. And then we do reading comprehension. And then like, I think the lie that people tell you is that people have to be sitting at a desk for 4 hours to be learning. Yeah. It's like, if my kid is smart to have a conversation about this, and then she can retell it to her brother or sister or dad, what she learned, that she knows there are 3 types of wasps. One of them doesn't actually fly, that there are 3 types of spiders that she learned about, and one of them doesn't have spinnerets, so she can't spin webs. Oh. So she traps food and bugs with flowers.
What?
Like yeah, this is a great series. It's super cool.
Oh, that's really cool.
But the thing is, if my daughter can do that, she's done her work. So why are we memorizing her?
Yeah.
Like, let these kids have fun. So what we did was we made wheat-free madeleines with monk fruit sugar. And the other day, because she likes to bake. And so she's reading the recipe for the baking, and she's doing
That's reading, right?
Right? It's reading, it's math, it's fun. It's like, if she knows how to turn the oven on, she knows how to measure stuff, she knows how to read a recipe, that's a life skill. That's what homeschooling is about.
Yeah.
So it's like, let's make sure that we do the fun things that they can eat. Who doesn't like to make stuff they can eat?
You're like, reading and math today is making dinner. Here's the recipe, and I'll be right here. See how well you do.
I think that's the thing where it's like, what do we wish someone had done for us when we were learning that we would have retained? Like, I love to cook. Why not share that love with my kids and have them learn, hey, do you notice your tummy feels different because we used a gluten-free flour versus the regular wheat flour? And we didn't use yeast for this recipe. We used baking soda or baking powder or whatever, right?
Yeah. And
I think when we do things like that, that creates a dynamic where our children feel a lot more empowered. Feel like, oh, learning doesn't have to be a drudgery. Like, it's great if they just love to get up every morning and do whatever it is that you want to do, and they don't even know they're learning. And then before you know it, they're the ones that are helping out when they go to school, if they go to public or if they go to homeschool or whatever. I mean, there's a trend in the last like five years, I think it was. It might be 10. All the Ivy League universities are scrutinizing much more the homeschool community for inviting them to come to campus and be part of their college situations. Because homeschool kids have a lot more global skills than the kids that are coming out of public school.
They're trying to crack down on us here in California and pass a law that you have to see a teacher, you have to be accredited, or you have to see a teacher.
To be a homeschooler?
What?
To be a homeschooler?
Yeah, you have to see a teacher every 3 days, and then then something was talked about.
Well, I would reach out to HSLDA, homeschool legal.
It hasn't passed yet.
Defense. Yeah, I doubt. Yeah, I mean, that stuff is pretty overstepping.
They already cut us off from like new students coming in. So my nephew was supposed to be kindergarten, and he couldn't get in. He has a
your homeschool co-op?
Huh?
Do your homeschool co-op?
Yeah, so he couldn't get funding. So my sister's just doing it on her own. So they're really cracking down here.
Yeah. I think the more self-sufficient you can be, the more freedom you have. If you need resources, the financial resource piece, just as a quick background on our homeschooling stuff is we paid 100% of everything for our children. So we paid everything from tutors. We've paid for all of the out of pocket for all, like, and I mean, most of my kids with ADHD diagnosed, the other two are not. But I don't need the diagnosis because I don't need the funding from the school to support my child. We also pay for all the curriculum. We pay for all, you know, and they're pretty flexible in Maryland. But the more you depend on funding, the less freedom you have.
Yeah, exactly. If you're able to think outside the box and not, and then the people who were depending on it, now they feel like cut off.
Yeah, well, so this is my thing, is connect with people. I have a group, so I have Lost to Found, that people are welcome to. That's my group that I kind of talk about homeschooling, special needs kids, mental health. It's a little bit older for other kids, but if people are interested in like recipes or just whatever, learning more about colors or whatever. But yeah, I'll give you the links to my course. And if people want to jump in on that, I'll give them a week. So today's the 5th. So
I'll do a special post too with just your course, and then your group, and then I'll put everything in here on the description.
Yeah, I will. I'll get you the link tomorrow.
Okay.
Because I'm done working for the day.
It's late where you are.
I know. Well, it's 9 here, but like we were having some tech issues earlier, so I wanted to make sure you had at least as much time as you wanted.
I appreciate you coming on here so much because I know you're so busy.
No, it's fine. No, but I have a heart. I really want parents of young children to realize they can homeschool and that it doesn't have to be figured out right now.
Yeah.
Not everything has to be done immediately. And that there are lots and lots of resources. So anyone that has any questions can feel free to reach out and I'll point them to what it is that I have. I don't have a dedicated homeschool sort of thing. Blog shares a lot about learning challenges. I deal specifically with special needs kids, but I think anybody that reads my posts can be like, oh, either they have a special needs kids that they didn't even know, and they're like, wow, this is something that I didn't realize is a thing. And it can give them insights into how to support their kids more peacefully. Or, I mean, frankly, the things that work in terms of structures and lists and scaffolding and all of that helps with kids that are younger anyway. So you can still apply those concepts to, you know, teaching with your younger children.
Yeah.
So I feel
like you
like
shared so much information, so I'm sure, I know you were going, this video is going to bless so many people and help them so much.
Yeah, but I love what you're doing. I think that it's really important to keep things that are fun, that are easy and low lift. And I think for the age of most of the mamas that you said you have in your group, it is just about discovery right now. If you can use that time to focus on discovering the colors of your kids' personalities and things like that, it really helps you.
From the beginning.
Yeah, like it helps you to be able to actually enjoy this time. You know, and I think you have such incredible insight having just dove deep with your sister and developed this curriculum, being like, you know, structured learning.
This was all an accident for me. This
but
was,
I mean, that's the best stuff. Like that's always the best stuff. The stuff that came out of necessity is always the stuff that ends up blessing more people.
Yeah. Because
it's like, I did this, like, and that's what I talk about is, you know, our homeschool journey. My one thing is don't feel like everything has to be on a list. Like just go with the way your kids are. And so, yeah, I mean, I have the course, but then I also offer one-on-one consults if people are interested in sort of checking out or have questions. They're like, I don't even know what I need, but I kind of need something. I will also offer that. I have those free chats. And people can grab a coffee with me and we can talk about that too.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
I'm a little flat and drinking water. It's just, it's a co-op day for us. So I've been up since like 6 o'clock.
Oh, it was a busy day. Yeah, no worries. You did amazing. I didn't even have to ask questions. You were just hitting all the points.
Well, you did send me the questions in advance, and that's generally, those are generally the questions most people ask me. It's like,
okay.
I'm worried about my kid failing. You know, how can I homeschool my kids because they don't really want to be homeschooled? Like, what is it that I should be doing? Like, what is the approach? How do you stay calm? Like, those are all the same things I answer over and over again. because those are the top things that impact every family.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to homeschool, but I feel guilty. I want to homeschool and everyone tells me I'm doing it wrong.
And
I
then we
want to
still feel like
homeschool.
we're alone, even though everyone else is feeling like this.
And I think a lot of it too is people from a place of love really do want to help, but it's such the opposite of how we are meant to parent our children and school them. And it's like, it's almost like this approach that you're not qualified, but we are because we're older than you or because we have a degree. And it's like, but I made this person.
This
I
person is
birthed
essentially
them.
you.
Yeah, like I literally birthed them out of my body. And there is something that's really qualified in having that relationship with this person. And nobody talks about that. And that's what I kind of like step into that gap. And I'm like, that's actually more important than everybody else's opinion at the end of the day.
I love that.
And if we didn't question our instincts to parent and school our kids the way that we feel like they are leading us to, it's often because there are people telling us that we're not qualified to do it, and it's not true. And there aren't enough people out there saying you are qualified. You're like the best person to educate your kid.
Because so many people, homeschooling for the most part is pretty foreign to a lot of people. So to say that, I feel like it's more normalized now than it was when I was growing up. Like the homeschool.
I like knew nobody that was homeschooled.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that, and I think also like the heritage stuff, the color stuff, which I like to go into because it kind of you begin to have grace and compassion for the way that people come to you and come at you when they give you advice. And you can kind of like bless and release them, being like, oh my gosh, you know, you obviously are really unhappy with your life and you're trying to help me because you don't want me to be unhappy. So you're trying to hem me in because you're agreeing and you have to follow rules. And you know, thank you so much for doing that. You know, I really appreciate you. And I mean, there are so many people that come at me trying to teach me or educate me or share with me. Oh, really? And they come across as really kind of critical. Yeah. And I just say, thank you so much. Like, I appreciate you. And it's like, boom. It's like, they're like, whoa, like, I'm not expecting someone to say thank you because their heart is to help. Even if the delivery is really gross, right? Yeah. It's like, I don't like that. That doesn't, those words aren't making me feel good.
Yeah, you probably totally catch them off guard when you're all nice.
Like, yeah, but the thing is, but it's like a genuine heart to appreciate that people actually want to help. They like do want to connect with you. But you have to kind of set those boundaries to be like, I really appreciate that. We're going to try this. And I will let you know if I need any additional help. Like with what you suggested. Thank you so much. Can I come and ask you more questions if that's something we decide to do?
Sure.
And that way it's like, but that's like a color thing. It's like there's certain people that just come off as a little bit more grating. And that's where you kind of can't let that be, I'm not a valuable mom. I'm a terrible homeschooler. I'm not a good person. It's like your value. And so this is my final, and then like we're over like an hour, is your value as a person was, is, and never will be as a result of anything you did correctly or you didn't do correctly. And that includes your children. Your children's success or failure in life has absolutely nothing to do with your value as a person.
And that's important to know for everybody. Everybody should know that because a lot of people feel like they're responsible.
Well, and they're told by society, your child doesn't do this the way they should because we like things to be quiet and your children are loud. So therefore, that's a reflection of you having been less.
And it's probably helpful too, like to surround yourself with people who feel that way instead of people who are so in the norm with everything, because then you're just going to be constantly sucked back. You need that community of people who are your people.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
Like okay, I have a very limited circle of people, and they're only people that like help me to level up or are pouring good things into me and truth. And that includes the media I consume. It includes the people I'm on with Clubhouse because I do some education there on parenting. there. I do color personalities every Friday. I do a call on Clubhouse in the
Oh,
Autism Beyond room at 12, I think it is, where I talk about color personalities of kids on the spectrum and special needs kids, because sometimes they have language barrier issues. And so parents need to kind of be able to take social cues from them on what colors they are and kind of support them in that way to be more successful. But we talk about marriages too, because I feel like if you're married and that relationship is not super in lockstep, it causes a lot of problems.
yeah. And if anybody
So,
needs any Clubhouse invites, I have some.
yeah, I have some too. Yeah. I don't think I'm following you. You have to tell me where you are.
I might be following you.
Okay.
I think
I'll
I am
find
following you.
Okay. Is it
Jenny Utley.
Is it Jenny?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where my thing is. I don't want people to feel like they're less than because their life isn't perfect. Like that's kind of and I mean, my two taglines are no Sunday best with me in terms of Christianity, and I'm a no BS Christian, which means like I love me some Jesus and some God. I don't love the box that people put God in.
Oh.
And so I'm just going to straight up be like, that's not who God is. God is not going to say that you're not enough because he built you and he created you and he created your kids. So there's no way that he made a mistake.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell people. So like, that's my brand and I'm sticking to it.
I am following you because I remember reading that. I remember reading that.
Yeah.
So I'll put all of your links. I forgot about Clubhouse, so I'll tag your Clubhouse link and all of the things tomorrow.
Yeah. And if anybody has any questions, they can reach out to me. I'm going to do the coupon for you tomorrow, the 20% off. Just message me so I remember to give you the discount for your people. Okay. And that's good for the next week.
All right. Have a good night. Thank you so much. Enjoy
Bye,
your family.
beautiful Jenny. It's so nice. I hope this was helpful to your mamas.
Oh, 100% for sure.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.